Hey everyone, welcome to our week 2 session of Photoshop, and I am so glad you all are here. We got a lot of great students here, and I am just so impressed with the week 1 work that you guys have done. We had just a phenomenal bunch of submissions, and your grades are showing it. So give yourselves a pat on the back for a lot of really great week 1 grades that have come out of last week. I was really pleased to see going down the list, A after A after A, and I just love seeing all of these A's in the class. And I know you guys are going to continue that momentum and carry it forward and continue to get A's on your week 2 work as well. And my goal, as I've said before, is for each and every one of you to come out of this class with an A. So, this is your first week, and, you might have maybe been a little tired from, just finishing up week 4 of your last classes. And so it's understandable that maybe you weren't paying as close attention as you maybe could have, and maybe you got something not quite correct on your week 1 assignment. Just probably 3 or 4 of you did this, no big deal, but you turned in a PSD, a Photoshop document, instead of a JPEG. And the assignment clearly states that a JPEG is required for your week 1 assignment and assessment. So let me just go into the classroom really quick and show you where it says that that your week 1 assignment, here we go, we're going to click on it, needs to be a JPEG. So here is where the assignment description is, right? And if you scroll down to submission requirements, here, see where it says submission requirements? It says you want to do a file save as and choose JPEG and submit the JPEG for grading. And some of you missed that and turned in a PSD and you lost 5 points. So like I said, I want to make sure each and every one of you get an A coming out of week 1. So if you want to resubmit your week 1 assignment and assessment as a JPEG instead of the PSD, I will gladly give you back those 5 points that you lost, okay? Because it's an understandable mistake. You guys were tired. It's the end, the beginning of a new mod, and you're probably tired from the final assignment from the week before, so no biggie. But please do pay attention, everyone, and make sure that your week 2 assignment and assessment are submitted as what? As JPEGs, okay? Everyone do me a favor and make sure that your week 2 assignment, write this down, you guys, needs to be turned in as a JPEG. So you're not, okay, so you're asking, how do you not flatten the PSD? Now keep in mind, the PSD is not going to be turned in. The PSD is for your own personal backup. And the way that you save an unflattened PSD, as someone just asked, is very simple. You just make sure that box to flatten things is not checked, okay? So when you're just saving your Photoshop document, let me open. Go to desktop. Oh, here we go. So this is an example of the type of Photoshop project that you guys will make. And see here in all of the layers, you have all the layers showing. I would hate to lose those layers by saving my project incorrectly. and not be able to then make edits to the project. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm saving the Photoshop document. Again, I'm not going to be turning in, if I were a student and I was being graded, I would not be turning in the Photoshop document. And see where it says layers here? You want to make sure layers is checked. And that way when you're saving your Photoshop document, all of the layers are still there and you haven't flattened the thing, okay? But you're not going to be turning in the Photoshop document. You're going to be turning in a JPEG, and you do that by going to File, Export, Save for Web. JPEG is selected up at the top of the screen. And I want to make a relatively small file size, so maybe I'll select JPEG medium, and then I'll hit save. And ta-da, that's how I save the JPEG. Okay, makes sense? So another really important thing to keep in mind as well is I think there's some students who might think incorrectly that the class times and the multi-session times change from week to week. And let me assure you, our class times and our multi-session times are always going to be the exact same from week to week. So you don't need to email me or text me asking when the class session time is, because it's going to be the same time as last week. And maybe you might have forgotten what the class time is. Let me show you where you can go to find out what our class and multi-session time is. If you go to Home, and then you click on this button. Does everyone see this here? This button that says Live Session. Click on that. And see here, it lists our times for our classes in all the different time zones. So if you live on the East Coast, you can see here that our class starts at 7 o'clock Eastern time on Monday, right? Does that make sense? And is anyone confused about the class session times and how they're the same week to week? Okay. So, and I'm always eager to answer all of your questions. So always feel free to email me or text message me. But I think I got 2 students who texted me or emailed me asking when the class session time was. And I just really want to assure you that it's always going to be the same time every week. And our multi-sessions, this is really important. This is where you can get one-on-one help with your assignments if you get stuck on something. Those are also always the same time every week. So you don't need to email me or text message me asking what time the multi-sessions are, because they're always going to be the same on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And here it lists the times for the multi-session in different time zones. So if you're in California, our multi-session is going to be in Pacific time at 4 o'clock. Okay? And then this is the link to where you can get to our class sessions. Now, another thing that I had one student mention was that she found the videos or our class session recordings to be very small. And let me show you all how to view our class session recordings full size, just like you would any other YouTube video that you're watching full size. So you can click on there, and if you click here and you view it in this little small screen, it's really hard to see where I'm clicking on all the tools, and it's going to be much easier for you to view this full screen. So when you're viewing our class session recording, click on the full screen option. Does everyone see this here? Click on the full screen option, which is this little square that looks kind of broken. And see, now it fills your whole screen. So you can see all the tools and you can see all the layers. Now, if you want to download our class session recordings and view them even when you're not connected to the internet. Let's say you only have limited internet access and you want to be able to have our class session recordings so that you can follow along and do your assignments, whether you are connected to the internet or not. What you can do is you can get the URL to the video by clicking, did you guys see how I did that? By clicking the YouTube icon here, the logo, the YouTube logo on the video. And if you hover over it, it comes up and it says watch on YouTube. If you click on that, it will take you to the video in YouTube. And then up at the top of the screen in your browser, it takes you to the link to that YouTube video. And then what you can do is you can copy that by going to Command-C. And I know many people have talked about, different ways to download YouTube videos. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, you probably have seen people share YouTube videos on Twitter or Facebook. And that's done by downloading the videos. So you can use a service such as en.savefrom.net. There's lots of different websites that do this, that allow you to save YouTube videos. en.savefrom.net is one of them. And what you do is you just go to this website, and then you paste in the YouTube video, and then you click on this blue icon here that says download video in browser, and that will then download my whole lecture, my whole 2-hour lecture, to your computer. And you can save it on your desktop, you can save it in your documents folder, and you can watch it even when you're not connected to the internet. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions about either our class session times, watching the YouTube video and seeing where things are, downloading YouTube videos? Okay, and before I jump into the week 2 assignment, I saw Tabreen had a really advanced question about something I do at the end of the week 2 assignment, and it was really specific. And what I'm going to ask you to do is hold off on that question, Tabreen, until I get there, and then I'll be happy to answer that question. So first, I have a number of you, 12 of you now in the class. Excellent. And does anyone have any questions on anything that we did in week 1 that you're confused about? I remember there was one student who I texted briefly, and she wanted to know, she was having trouble finding the paint bucket tool. Is anyone here in this class that had trouble finding the paint bucket tool? Okay, you did, April? Okay, let's do this. April, hit the share screen button that you see right in the middle of your screen. And what I'll do is I'll walk you through where to find the paint bucket tool. Okay, now good, April. What I want you to do is open up your week 1 assessment. And you can just click on the PS icon at the bottom of your screen. Good. And just double click on it, just like you're opening up any program. And then you're going to go to open, right? Because you already have your assessment open, right? And you're going to go to your week 1 assessment. Good. Okay, so you're starting from the beginning. Okay, what you're going to do is double click on your background. Double click on it. Click, click. Not click and drag, just with your finger twice really fast on your trackpad. Good. And now you're going to click OK. Good. Now you're going to make a new layer by hitting Shift Command N or clicking the new layer icon at the bottom of the layer panel. And then click OK. And now you're going to drag layer 1 underneath layer 0. Good. Now you're going to click on layer 0, click on layer 0, and see where it says normal in that drop-down menu? You're going to click on that and you're going to select multiply. Good. And now you're going to click the lock icon. Good. And now you're going to click on layer 1. On layer 1. Good. And now you're going to go over to the left side of your screen. There is the gradient tool, and that looks like a box that's dark on one side and light on the other side. Click and hold. Click, click, click and hold. Good. And now click on the paint bucket tool. Good. And now click anywhere you want on your document. Good. And so it looks like your paint bucket tool is working now. Okay, D'Angelica. So D'Angelica was having trouble with the paint bucket tool as well. So let's find it. D'Angelica, do you want to share your screen? Hold on a second. So D'Angelica, go ahead and hit the share screen button. Oh, so you got it all figured out? Okay, so Tabreen, did you have a question about essentials? So I can definitely explain what I meant by going to essentials. Sometimes when you're working in Photoshop, you might be in a different workspace. So for instance, if you go to Windows, say Photography, and so when you are in like the photography workspace, chances are some of your tools are not going to be showing up, some of your usual tools. So what you want to do is first reset the essentials so that you have the tools that you'll need for our assignments. And to do that, you go up to Window up at the top of the screen, and then you go to Workspace, and then you click on either Essentials or you click Reset Essentials. And then that brings you back to the workspace where you have all of the tools and all of the layers, and then you can begin working on the projects that we are working on for DES104. And Doug, yes, Doug just asked a great question. If you wanted to, could you just record our class session on Zoom? Definitely. Feel free to do that. Okay, so as we move into our week 2 assignments, I want to really reiterate how important it is to follow directions. And you guys are doing a great job. Your grades are showing it. I'm just loving seeing all these A's, and I want to help you guys continue to get A's on your week 2 work. So, but you want to make sure that you pay real close attention, specifically to the rubric. And this rubric is what I use to grade you. So if you submit your assignment on time and you submit the correct file type and using the correct file naming conventions, you get 5 points. And if you don't do that, you're going to lose out on those 5 points. So how do you know what file type is required for assignment submission? And here we are in week 2 assignment, in our week 2 assignment. And if you scroll down, you can see here on submission requirements, it's asking you to do a file, save as, and choose JPEG. And it says both JPEGs, So that lets you know right away that you're going to be submitting 2 files. So you have 4 images to choose from, but you're going to be retouching 2 of them. Okay? Also, pay attention. This is really important, you guys. And if you need to write this down, so write down on your notes file submission, and then maybe write like an arrow or an equal sign that says JPEG. And then it's asking you on each of these photos that you're submitting, you're going to use an adjustment layer. So that means on both photos that you retouch, you're going to want to use an adjustment layer. You're going to want to use, the next one down is spot healing and clone stamping to remove blemishes on all of your photos. And then another adjustment tool of your choice. So you should be doing 3 things to all photos. If you just submit a photo that has just the blemishes removed with the spot healing, and you didn't use an adjustment layer, and you didn't use another tool of your choice, you're losing out on 60 points there, okay? And that's the difference between an A and an F. So please, please do make sure that you pay very close attention and do all of them. Yes, Sabrine, you're welcome to do all 4, but you're only going to be graded on 2. Okay, so let's do this assignment. First, what you're going to want to do is download the 2 images that you want to retouch. And all you do is just click on the link, and it goes into your downloads folder. Now, do you guys remember in our week 1 assignment, we started by making a new project by going to File, New? We're not going to do that for our week 2 assignment. We're going to do just like we did in the week 1 assessment, which was instead of starting with a new document, we're going to just open an already existing file. So we can open a file in 2 ways. We can either go, and this is a good thing to write down. So go to your notes right now, you guys, and write down the word file, and then write down an arrow, write a little arrow, and then write down the word open. So file, arrow, open, and that could be your step 1. So if you're taking good notes, you could write the letter 1, the number 1, and circle it for step 1. And then you can write file, arrow, open for file open. And then you're going to go to your downloads folder, because that's where everything goes that you download. So if you're writing steps, you'll write 2 and you'll circle it, and then you'll click on downloads. So write that down, downloads, and then browse to the file that you want to open, and then click open. See, now we're ready to begin retouching our project. If we were to make a new document and then place the photo onto that new document, we would be changing the size of the photo, and we don't want to do that. We want to work with the file at full resolution. So another way to open a file in Photoshop is by going to the Finder menu, which is the 2 blue faces on your Mac computer. And you're going to click on it, and you're going to go to your downloads folder, and then you're going to click on the image that you want to open. And then, this is a little different. So again, I'm just showing you another way to open a file. You can hold down the control button, click on your trackpad while holding down the control button, and then click open with Photoshop. And that is another way to open a file in Photoshop. Now let's look at a project that's already been done, and then so we can kind of see what we're going for. I'm zooming into this, and you're going to see me zoom in and out of things a lot. So you can hit Command plus sign to zoom in and Command minus sign to zoom out. Command plus sign to zoom in, Command minus sign to zoom out. Okay, and let's see what the photo looked like before we retouched it. So I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option button and then click on the eyeball on the background layer. And so we have, some blemishes, we have some kind of dark shadows, we have some stray hairs. And then by doing some retouching, we smoothened out the skin, we lessen the harshness of the shadows. And you can also have fun with recoloring the eyes and lips. You can even recolor the hair if you want, as long as everything looks natural. And I smoothen out the hair by giving it a little bit of volume, okay? So let's get started on this picture. And luckily the exposure is really good. The color is really good. So we don't have to do anything as far as that goes. We can jump right into doing the blemish removal. So part of your requirement for your assignment is to use an adjustment layer. So in this case, because the overall photo is good and I don't need to adjust the overall photo, I'm going to use my adjustment layer on the lips just to give the lip a color, okay? But first, I'll start with the blemishes. And first step, write this down, you guys, is I'm going to hit Shift Command N, which makes a new layer. So write this down. Shift Command N to make a new layer. And then I'm going to click OK. You can also make a new layer by clicking on the new layer icon next to the trash can. Next, I'm going to go over to my spot healing tool. And once I select my spot healing tool, and the spot healing tool looks like a little Band-Aid with a circle behind it. And April, this is a good question for April, because April had trouble finding the paint bucket tool because, as I said in week 1, the paint bucket tool is roommates with the gradient tool. They live on the same button. So in order to find the paint bucket tool, I needed to click on the gradient tool, click and hold until the paint bucket tool popped up, right? So if you have that similar problem that April had, where she was having trouble finding a tool, you can click on the button that that tool is roommates with and then see that tool pop up. Okay, so for instance, if on your computer or on your workspace, April, if you're seeing the patch tool and you're looking in your tool panel and you're wondering, gosh, I can't find the spot healing tool. Well, if you click on the patch tool, click and hold, you can find the spot healing tool on that same button. And so the spot healing tool is also roommates with the regular healing brush tool. So if you're seeing just the Band-Aid by itself and you're wondering, gosh, I can't find the spot healing tool, you can click on that Band-Aid, click and hold, and then the spot healing brush tool comes up, which is the Band-Aid with the circle, the dotted line behind it. Okay, so once I've selected the tool that I want to use, this is really, really important, and you guys want to pay attention here. you're going to want to make sure sample all layers is checked at the top of the screen. And so if I were you and writing your notes right now, I would write in really, really big letters, sample all layers, and I'd circle it so that I would remember to make sure sample all layers is checked at the top of the screen. Because if sample all layers is not checked and you attempt to fix something in the photo, nothing will happen. So you need to make sure sample all layers is checked at the top of the screen. And then you can use this tool to remove pimples and blemishes and other imperfections from the image. So what's the best way to work with the spot healing tool? It's to make your spot healing tool slightly, just ever so slightly larger than the thing that you're trying to get rid of. So right now it's a little bit on the big side because it's kind of slightly larger than the hair. So I'm going to shrink my brush size down by doing this. Pay attention, everyone. If you look at your keyboard, you'll see the letter P on your keyboard. And next to the letter P, there is a bracket that is the left bracket, and it's kind of like this square-shaped bracket. The left bracket, if you press that, makes your brush smaller. And the right bracket makes your brush bigger. Oh, cool. So Michael's already using this technique in his real-life work because he's retouching historic photos. Yep. And so the way that you want to work when you are getting rid of something, whether it's something small like a little hair or something large like a bigger patch that's more complicated, is just like Michael says in the chat, work from the outside in. So don't try and like start up here to get rid of the hair. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. But start from the outside and then gradually work your way inward. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of a blur happening as I am getting rid of these hairs. And that is because I'm using content aware, which is content aware is great for removing things from the background. And it does a lot of really good things, but it does tend to slightly blur your retouching a little bit. Proximity match is often better for things like beauty retouching and like little blemish removal because it maintains the texture of the skin. And Marniqua asks a great question. Will this be posted later to rewatch? And just like I did for week 1, I posted the recording. And so I guarantee you I'm not going to be mean and suddenly change things up by not posting the recording for week 2 for some arbitrary reason. I will do just like I did in week 1. I will post the recording for you guys to rewatch, and you can all rest assured and know that for all your teachers in all of your classes, we'll always post the recording, okay? So you never, ever have to worry about emailing your teacher or texting your teacher asking if the class recording is going to be posted, because it always is. And even if your future teachers don't email you or text you letting you know that the recording has been posted, you can always go to that live sessions button in the classroom, and I guarantee you your live sessions will always be there. And if they aren't, if the recordings are not posted, definitely email the dean and email your FPA, because that's a requirement for all of your teachers and all of your classes. They have to. That's the rules. They have to post their live class sessions. So don't worry about those sorts of things. They will always be posted, and you don't have to ever ask for it. So see, what I'm doing now is I'm just going around the picture, and I am getting rid of all of those little pimples and blemishes. And I can even, get rid of just little tiny fine lines by just making my brush ever so slightly larger than the thing that I'm getting rid of. Yes, Tabreen, there's absolutely a way to copy and flip the photo. And that's what I do for the cat eye. So I'm going to be demonstrating a little bit later on in our class session how to put the cat's eye back in, if you do the cat eye photo, by taking a copy of the cat's eye and flipping it around. And for those of you who watched the pre-recorded lecture, I demonstrate that technique as well, so if you're eager to watch that. So yes, I'm doing small strokes because I only want to get the pimples that I want to get rid of. I don't want to all of a sudden cover a huge area of her skin that didn't need to be retouched. I just want to retouch the pimples. And then as I get rid of the hair, I'm just going to do a little bit of the hair at a time. So here's the stray hair here. So I'm just going to do a little at a time. Just like that to make it go away. And I'm using, again, the proximity match option that's available at the top of the screen. And I'm making my brush just ever so slightly larger than the thing. If I make my brush too large, your picture is going to start looking very blurry and blotchy, which is not good. So we just want to do just a little bit at a time. And see, occasionally, something like that happens, where you get a big old mess up. But the thing is, that we have all of our changes on separate layers, so I can easily erase this mistake. And if you guys were to guess what is the shortcut key for using your eraser, what would it be? If you're like, I wonder what the shortcut key for using my eraser would be. It's the letter E for eraser, right? And just like we shrunk and increased the size of our spot healing brush by using the brackets located next to the letter P, I can shrink down the size of my eraser by using the brackets that are located next to the letter P on my keyboard. I can scrub, 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 and now I can go to the spot healing and fix, fix, fix. See, that part is hard because it's so close to the edge, so I'm just going to erase again. And if all else fails, I can always use something like clone stamp to get rid of it. So it's usually just if you start to get really weird things like that happening, just make your brush size really smaller and just do small, small, small strokes. Okay, so there's a few other pimples and imperfections that we would probably want to get rid of, but I don't want to bore you guys to death, and I want to move on to other things. So we're going to use clone stamp next. So I'm going to make a new layer, Shift Command N. And Doug, yes, you are definitely welcome to use Alt Command Z or Option Command Z to get rid of your mistakes as you make them. And that is undo. Command Z to undo once, Option Command Z to undo a lot of times. So the clone stamp tool is located underneath the spot healing tool, and it looks like a little stamp. Clone stamp tool. And the shortcut key for the clone stamp tool is the letter S. Now the clone stamp tool is a little bit tricky because you have to do two things to make it work. You have to first select an area of the skin that you want to copy, And then you have to start painting with it. So let's say I want to copy her eye. I hover my cursor over her eye. I hold down the Alt or Option button on my keyboard. I click once on my trackpad with one finger, and then I let go of the Alt or Option button. And what that has done, it has loaded my brush with her eyeball. And so I can paint her eyeball wherever I want, right? And then if I wanted to put her eyeball down here, oh no, I ran out of eyeball, so I have to reload my brush with some eyeball. Hold down the Alt or Option button. Click on my trackpad. Let go of my Alt or Option button. Now, obviously, you're not going to do this for your assignment. I'm just showing you how the clone stamp tool works so that it will make sense with how I'm going to use it in just a moment. So I'm going to make a new layer. Okay, Tabrina, I'd love to help you with that. And now what I'm going to do is Command + to zoom in. And now I'm going to shrink my brush size down. And what I'm going to do is copy a layer of skin that's right up here, and I'm going to paint it here to fix this weird angle of her eyebrow. So I'm going to first take a copy by holding down the Option button, just slightly above her eyebrow in that blank area of skin. And I'm going to click on my trackpad, and I'm going to let go of the Alt or Option button. And I'm going to bring the skin down, and I'm going to paint over it here. Ta-da! And so, Tabreen, what are you having trouble with? Go ahead and share your screen. And I'd love to help you if you're having some eyebrow trouble. I'd love to help you with that. Oh, you submitted already. Okay. Okay, so that is how you can use Clone Stamp to fix parts of the picture. Now let's do a little bit of soft light, and so you'll notice that you have kind of some hard shadows on her face. We want to just soften them and give her skin more of a glowy feeling. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to go to my brush tool. And I want to make sure I'm painting with pure white. And if I just select white from the color picker, I might accidentally make my white a little bit too green or a little bit too yellow. So to reset my foreground and background colors, write this down, guys. To reset my foreground and background colors, hit the letter D on your keyboard. So in your notes, write D equals reset foreground and background colors. And so you'll notice that my foreground color is now pure black and my background color is pure white. But I want that white to be my foreground color because I'm going to be painting with white in a second. So I'm going to hit the letter X on my keyboard. So write this down in your notes, guys. X equals toggle foreground background. So if I want to have black be my foreground color again, I just hit X, and now black is, and then I can hit X, and now white is. The point is, I want to be painting with white with a very large, soft brush. How am I increasing the size of my brush? By using the bracket keys on my keyboard next to the letter P. So I've made my brush about the size of her forehead. And up at the top of the screen, this is where my brush settings are. Notice I have my hardness down all the way to 0%. You know, if you are into exact numbers, my brush size is 175. And now watch, I'm gonna paint. And what I'm doing is I'm painting as if the light is hitting her. So basically, this is like where I want the light to be hitting her face. Now, I obviously don't want to leave it like this. because it doesn't look natural. Now I'm going to change the blending mode, just like you did for your week 1 assessment, where you change the blending mode to multiply. We're going to change the blending mode on this from normal to soft light. And now it's too bright, right? No one's gonna have skin that is quite that pale. It looks kind of vampire-y. So we're gonna lower the opacity. We're gonna lower the opacity by going to this section of your layer panel here. Next to where it says soft light, it says opacity. And I'm gonna lower the opacity. So right now it's at 36%. So before, after. So see now how we've softened the harshness of the shadows. Excuse me, I had a cough all day. And it's kind of made her skin glow a little bit. That's what we're going for. Sorry about that, guys. Next, we're gonna do the fun stuff, which is one of the requirements for your rubric to earn full credit is to use an adjustment layer, which we haven't yet done. And so the adjustment layer I'm gonna use is curves, and I'm gonna use it on her lips to make her lips look like they have lipstick on them. So first step is I'm going to go to my lasso tool. And right now it's on the polygon lasso tool, and I want the regular lasso tool that's behind it. I want to use the regular lasso tool. So, if, like April had trouble finding the paint bucket tool because it was behind the gradient tool. If you have trouble finding the regular lasso tool, just look for either the polygon lasso tool or the magnetic lasso tool and click on it, click and hold, and then you'll see the regular lasso tool comes up. Okay, and what you're gonna do is trace inside her lip line. So you're not gonna go outside her lip line because it will make her look like a clown. But we're going to trace well within the lip line to make a selection. And notice as I made that selection, I got her lip ring in, and I want to delete her lip ring from the selection. So I'm going to go to the top of the screen, and I'm going to go to the subtract from selection option that's available at the top of the screen. And that looks like a dark square intersecting a light square. And ta-da! There I have subtracted the lip ring from her lip selection. And I can continue to refine the selection. So here, see here I want to kind of get a little bit more lip there. So I'm going to go to the add to selection option, which is the two light colored boxes intersecting. And I'll just kind of add that. I just want to kind of get a little bit more of her lip there. Okay, so step 1 in changing the lip color is use the lasso tool to make a selection. Write that down, guys. Use the lasso tool to make a selection. Step 2 is to go down to the bottom of the layer panel and look for the little icon that is a circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And that is the adjustment layer icon. The circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to click on the word curves. See where it says curves here? I'm going to click on curves. And now watch. If I want something really easy, all I do is I click on this middle line here and I drag it down. And see, I've darkened her lips. Now you might be noticing that her lips are, like the edge is very hard. It doesn't look blended and it looks a little bit unnatural. So let's blend it, okay? So write this down, guys. To blend the lips so they look nice and natural, I'm going to double click on this black square here. I'm going to double click on this black square. And this brings up the mask's properties window. And what I'm going to do is increase the feathering, which is right here, feathering. And see, as I increase the feathering, it blends the lips. And then I can hit the X to make this go away. See how that looks much more natural? So before, after. Now let's say I wanted to change that lip color. I can double click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And I can go to a specific channel. So right now my channel is on RGB. Let's say I want to make the lips a little bit more magenta. I can go to the green channel. And I can decrease the amount of green and see now the lips are looking more magenta. So you are welcome to go to any channels that you want. For instance, let's say you want to make it a little bit more yellow. You can decrease the amount of blue and then you got a little bit more yellow. You can increase the amount of blue and then you got a little more purple. See how that works? Okay. Another thing that you're welcome to play with, because remember you have to do a third technique of your choice. And so one thing you can do is color her eyes, and we can use blending modes to do that. So I'm going to make a new layer by clicking on the new layer icon here. I'm going to go to the brush tool, and from my foreground color, I am going to pick a color of my choice. Let's do a little purple. And with my paintbrush, I am going to paint her iris. Do not leave your photo like this, though. This does not look natural. It won't look natural until we change the blending mode. So that is what the irises look like painted on normal blending mode. It doesn't look natural at all. So I'm going to go to the drop-down menu here that says normal, and I'm going to change it to color. And once I change it to the color blending mode, you be sure to write that down and maybe circle it. We're using the color blending mode to change her eye color. And this is going to be really important for your week 2 assessment. So it looks great, but I don't think anyone in the real world has that eye color that is quite so vibrant. So what we're going to do is lower the opacity of the eye color so it looks a little bit more natural. So I don't think anyone really has eyes that are that purple, but by lowering the opacity, it will at least look like maybe it could be possible. So I'm going to go to the opacity option here in the layer panel, which is again right next to the word color. So color, opacity, and I'm gonna lower the opacity. And so now the opacity is at 24%. So now they're kind of a soft, brownish, purpley color. Yeah, definitely. It's just, I think it was just so bright that even fake contacts wouldn't quite look that bright. Okay, and then the final thing, to Brain, you had a question about what I'm gonna do next, right? So I would say definitely pay attention here, because this is where I'm gonna merge the layers together to smoothen out the hair. And this is an optional part of the photo assignment, so if you are confused about how to smoothen out the hair, or if it just ends up looking really bad for you, then turn your photo in looking like this instead. You know, it looks totally fine. You know, it looks fine like this. Her hair's a little scraggly, but it's fine. Let's now go into how, if we wanted to smoothen out the hair, how to do that. So pay attention. The first thing you do is you want to click on your topmost layer, and then do this. Hit Shift, Command, Option, E. Shift, Command, Option, E. Write that down, you guys. Shift, Command, Option, E. 4 buttons at the same time. And if you're on a PC, it's going to be Shift, Control, Option, E. Now, I'm going to go up to the top of the screen where it says Filter. And I'm going to click on Liquify. Command plus sign to zoom in. And so what I'm going to use is this tool called the finger tool, which is also called the forward warp tool. And I'm going to make my brush about that size. You guys could compare it to slightly larger than her eye. And I'm going to place my cursor kind of halfway on the hair, halfway off. And I'm going to gently push the hair outward. So I'm gently pushing the hair outward. And what that is doing, it's helping to create the illusion that her hair is smoother and fuller. And it's helping to kind of hide the fact that her hair is kind of scraggly. And then I can kind of squish the hair in here a little bit. And so Tabreen, what were you stuck on in this part? Just moving that down a little bit. Everything has to be real subtle though. You don't want to go overboard and make things look fake.
Can I talk?
Oh yeah, go for it.
No, because when I did it, I thought that when you go to and you put the Shift, the Command, and the Alt button all together, I thought you couldn't get to this if it wasn't together. You know what I mean?
Oh, you can't. It has to be all merged together.
Okay, yeah, merged. Okay, that's the word.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I did the Shift, Command, Option, E to merge it all together.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Glad to help. Okay, so just kind of puffing out her hair like that, very gentle, not streaking things, not making it look unnatural, just gently pushing things out. And now I'm going to click OK. And no, I didn't lock any layers. And so before, after. So see how we gave her hair a little bit more volume? Okay, now let's look at where we came from and where we're going. So I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option button, and I'm going to click on the eyeball on the background layer. So that's what the photo looked like before. And that's what the photo looked like after. And what I'd like you guys to do before you turn in your assignments is, if you live with anyone, show them the before and after before you turn it in. Because if you have blurs or blotchiness, you're gonna lose points for it. Also, consider posting on Facebook or Twitter the before and after, so that, and ask people, is the after looking better than the before? Because I've seen, there's been students in the past who just made everything really blurry, made everything really blotchy. And by the way, I can tell if you use like Instagram apps instead of Facebook to retouch your, or not just Instagram, but there's lots of apps that are not Photoshop that do a really cheesy job of retouching images. The thing is, Photoshop is the industry standard, and you don't want to cheat on your graphic design major assignments by not using Photoshop, because Photoshop is the industry standard, and you need to learn this. And you see by my demonstration, it's not hard. It's just about getting it done. And your goal is not for a picture that looks blurry or blotchy, but just like a picture that doesn't have blemishes on it, where the shadows are lightened up and the overall image is really professional looking. So remember, you're gonna save the PSD file, but you're gonna be submitting the JPEG. Yeah, and as Michael says, like, chances are your first design job that you get after you graduate is going to be photo retouching, because it's the thing that that's like the easiest entry-level job to get. So I think if you're going to focus on any skill in your graphic design major, focus on beauty retouching and focus on photo compositing, which means cutting things out of their background, because those are the two things that will guarantee you to get a job. All right, so let's now save the Photoshop document. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to save the Photoshop document to our DES104 April folder. You're going to name it using the correct naming convention, which is DES104_week2_assignment. I'll call this A, your name, .psd. You're not going to be turning your Photoshop document in. Do not turn your Photoshop document in. Turn in the JPEG. So to save the JPEG, you're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web, JPEG High, and then hit Save. Save it to your DES104 folder that you made, and that is what you're going to be turning in. Alrighty, so let's say the next image that you choose to retouch is going to be this guy. Unlike the previous photo, this guy is going to definitely need an adjustment layer straight off the bat. So if you're comparing like the color of this photo to this photo, what do you think we need to fix about this photo first? It is the exposure is okay. We don't need to do anything to exposure. But it is too yellow. Yes, thank you. It's too yellow. And the way that we can tell it's too yellow is that we can look at something in the photo that should be white. For instance, the white wall in the background, or the white collar on his shirt. And instead of it being pure white, I'm going to hit my eye for my eyedropper tool. That would be a good thing to write down if you guys need to write something down, eye for eyedropper. I can click and see my background color. Instead of being white, it's yellow. And this little weird tag on his shirt here, instead of being white, it's like a yellowy brown. So let's use the color balance adjustment layer first to get rid of the excess yellow. So I'm going to go down to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other at the bottom of the layer panel. And I'm going to click on color balance. And this is really important, guys. Pay attention. I'm going to drag my slider away from yellow and towards blue all the way. But as we got rid of a lot of the excess yellow, we can see that his skin is looking very, very red. So we need to get rid of that excess red as well. So write this down, you guys. First step is to drag the yellow-blue slider all the way to blue. Second step is to drag the cyan-red slider just part way into cyan. But we can still see there is a lot of yellow here. So the third step, write this down, third step, really important, is to go to where it says tone. And see right now it says tone midtones. We're gonna click tones highlights. And we're gonna go to the highlights section of the image. Highlights are like the bright areas of the image. The midtones are the medium areas of the image. And the shadows are the dark parts of the image. So we're gonna go to our highlights and we're gonna drag our yellow-blue slider all the way to blue. And then we have a lot of red. So we're gonna drag our red slider into cyan, not too much. Mostly I'm paying attention to this white area here. And I wanna make sure that it is white and not cyan. I can hit the X to make this go away. And so let's see the before and after. Eyeball, before, after. See how much better it looks? Now we're gonna get rid of this little white tag here. So I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna go to the clone stamp tool. I am going to make a selection of the black part of his shirt by holding down the Alt or Option button and clicking on the black part of his collar. And then I'm going to paint. Oops, I messed up there. I'm going to Command Z to undo. Alt or Option click. So I'm going to paint to get rid of that. And then I'm going to take a reselection, Alt or Option click, get rid of that little part there. And there I got rid of that white color. And now I can go to my spot healing tool and I can get rid of like any other blemishes. You know, if I wanted to. It's totally up to you what you get rid of, but just get rid of a few things, right? And we can, you know, you can use this to reshape his eyebrows if you want to just do a little eyebrow shaping. You can also use Clone Stamp to do that as well. You can get rid of a few fine lines. It's totally up to you how you want to use these tools. All right, so you want to kind of work from the outside in though, because you see how easy it is to get really blurry. So just be careful. I'm not going to spend too much time because now I've demonstrated it already. Remember, then you have to do a third thing to this photo. So if you wanted to, you are welcome to do, you know, we can put some lipstick on him. Go to my lasso tool. Remember how we put lipstick on the girl? So we can go to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. We can click on curves. Darken his lips just a little bit. And then see how the edge is really hard, and we wanna kind of soften that edge a little bit. So if you go to the black and white shape that's next to curves, double click, and you can now soften the curves effect and the lipstick by adding feathering. So see now how it's a little bit more blended? See how much nicer it looks? So before, after, so adding a little dimension. And you can also add like things like blush. You can add hair color. So I'm gonna make a new layer, Shift Command N. And I'm gonna use the color blending mode. I'll just add a little bit of blush to him. So I'm gonna go to, see where it says normal here up at the top of the screen. I'm gonna change it to color. And select something that kind of complements the lipstick. But we're gonna go a little bit lighter. I'm gonna use a little soft color, and then just a little bit of, and see, this is too bright where it looks a little bit unnatural. But if we lower the opacity and we have just a little bit of pink, it's kind of nice, right? And you can do the same for if you want to add just a little bit of eyeshadow too. The color blending mode lets us easily paint makeup on people. And so this is just ever so subtle purple. And I think that would look really good if his eyebrows were shaped a little bit better. And have fun with the clone stamp tool, you know, trying to do that. Cool. Let's do, you know what, we are kind of running short on time. So I'm gonna buzz ahead to the week 2 assessment. And then I will, if we have time after I demonstrate the assessment, I'll go back and I'll do the cat picture and the dog picture. So here we are. Oh my gosh, all the windows open at once. So here we are on our week 2 assessment. And it's very, very important that you follow the steps and you do everything that the steps are required, because the way this rubric is, if you have to turn in the right files, you have to make sure it's turned in as a JPEG. You have to select the scarf, make the whole picture black and white, but the scarf has to be a solid color. And then you have to add a gradient vignette over everything and a photo filter. And so if you don't do all 4 of those things, you could lose out on 20 points here and 25 points here. So make sure, before you turn it in, look at everything in the rubric here to make sure that you did it right. Now we're gonna scroll down. So you're gonna download this image, and then you're gonna follow all of the steps and do everything exactly. And if you're not sure of what the final image is supposed to look like, you can scroll down to sample 1 and sample 2. Click on it. And see, this is a perfect example of what the final project is supposed to look like. It's black and white. The headscarf is a solid color. There's a vignette around it, which means the corners are darkened. And there's a slight photo filter over it, which means that there's a slight kind of sepia brownish tone to it instead of being pure black and white. So I've downloaded, or I'm going to download, this image by clicking on the link here. There it is. And just like we did for our week 2 assignments, we're not making a new file first. We're just going to open this picture in Photoshop as it is. So I'm going to go to File, Open, Downloads, and we're going to click to that assessment. Alrighty, and so the first thing I can do is I can get my black and white adjustment layer out, and I can click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other, and I can click on that, and I can go to Photo Filter. Not Photo Filter, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I was jumping ahead. We're gonna go to black and white, which is above Photo Filter. Black and white. And the cool thing is with the black and white adjustment layer, you can adjust what the black and white will look like. So if you want it to be like more high contrast, you can, darken the reds like this, and you can go do something like this. You can you are welcome to control how your black and white is going to look, which is pretty cool. Okay, now I'm going to temporarily turn the black and white layer off, and I'm going to go to my background layer to create the selection for her headscarf. So I'm going to Command plus sign now. And the tool I'm going to use to make the headscarf selection is the Quick Selection tool, which is found underneath the Magic Wand tool. So if you're looking at your tool panel and you're like, oh no, I don't have the Quick Selection tool, click on the Magic Wand tool, click and hold, and then the Quick Selection tool is roommates with the Magic Wand tool. And now up at the top of the screen, you have 3 options. You have the New Selection option, the Add to Selection option, and the Subtract from Selection option. So we're going to start with the New Selection option. And I'm going to make my brush. We can adjust our brush size just like we did with the Spot Healing tool. And see, I'm going to paint inside this headscarf. And I'm just going around, I'm just painting. It's kind of finding the edges. There's a few areas that it's kind of missing over here. Zooming in really close helps. But you're not going to get everything perfect the first time. Okay, so looking pretty good. Now I'm going to Command plus sign and fix little edges that weren't quite good. So see here how I missed this little part here? So I'm going to go to the Subtract from Selection option, shrink my brush size down, paint. It went a little too far, so now I'm going to go to the Add to Selection option, shrink my brush size down, paint. Go around, so this got a little bit too much skin here. Add a little bit here. So you're going to go around and be really, really careful about getting the edge of your selection looking good. Okay, see this little part here? We're going to do subtract from selection and fix. Then add to selection and get this part back. Okay, so now I have the headscarf completely selected in. So I'm going to go above the black and white layer, which I'm welcome to, you're welcome to turn that back on if you want. And now I'm going to go down to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And I'm going to click on the solid color adjustment layer. And you can pick any color that you want. Now see though how I missed a spot? Just the nature of selections, they're always going to be a little bit imperfect. We can easily fix that, and that's the magic of Photoshop. So you can fix your selection by clicking on the color fill, not the colored layer, but the black and white shape on the color fill layer. That is called the layer mask. And if you get your paintbrush tool out, and what you can do is paint with white inside your layer mask. So see, white is my foreground color. My layer mask, if you look on here, the part that I want to show is white. And every time I paint with white, it fills in the section that I missed. And so it was okay that I use a fuzzy edge brush, but I want to go down to the corner here and fix this little part. So I'm going to go to and increase the hardness all the way. All right, fix these little parts here. And this is a layer mask. This is how you can hide and reveal certain parts of your layer. And our layer is just a solid color layer, and we are getting it to fit inside this headscarf shape. Okay, and so the reason that this purple is fitting inside the headscarf is because of, I'm going to option click on this, of this black and white shape that we just created with our selection. Okay, so we're partway there. The thing is, we don't have a natural looking solid color. It's a flat color, so we need to use a blending mode to get this color to colorize the photo and not just be a flat painted color. So I'm going to go up to the adjustment, the blending modes up at the top of the layer panel, and I'm going to click on the word normal here, and I'm going to click on normal, and I'm going to change this to color. And see, the color adjustment layer now changed it so it looks like it's colorized that headscarf. So this is what it looks like when it's on the normal blending mode. Flat, doesn't look natural, very bad. But if I change the blending mode from normal to color, it looks dimensional. It looks like it's a purple headscarf. So now what we're going to do is use a vignette to darken the corners of the picture. And we're going to use a gradient to do this. And I need everyone to please, please pay attention, because this is an area where there's always one student every mod who gets confused about this. So I want all of you to pay attention, because there are two adjustment layers that say gradient, and one is the correct one and one is the incorrect one. So we're going to go down to the bottom of the layer panel, and there is a circle that's light on one side, dark on the other at the bottom of the layer panel. And we're going to click on gradient, which is the second gradient down. It's the gradient that is right underneath solid color. Okay? Please, please do not use something called the gradient map. Do not write this down in your notes. Write big, bold letters. Do not use the gradient map and circle that and put an X through it. Do not use the gradient map. The gradient map is found at the very bottom of the adjustment layers above selected color, and this is not what you want to use. It's not going to create the effect that we want. You want to use gradient, which is the second option down. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the black and white gradient by clicking on the gradient button here. Right now it's purple. And we're going to select this gradient here, which is black to white, okay? Black to white. And then we're going to click OK. And now this is really important. See where it says Style Linear? We're going to change linear. Write this down in your notes. Change linear to radial. Change linear to radial. And then click on reverse. And then you can increase the scale, but don't increase it too much or else I won't be able to tell that you did anything here. So I would say increase it, if anything, up to like 120 is good. And then click OK. So you may be wondering, well, I can't see my picture anymore. What we're going to do is use the same exact adjustment layer blending mode that we used in the week 1 assessment. We're going to use the same blending mode that we used in the week 1 assessment, which is multiply, because multiply makes white transparent and black opaque. So see here in the layer panel, see where it says normal? You're going to click on the word normal and you're going to change it to multiply. Click on the word normal and you're going to change it to multiply. Now we just have to do one final step. We're going to go down to the bottom of the layer panel and click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. At the bottom of the layer panel, the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And you're going to click on photo filter. Photo filter. And we're going to change the photo filter, increase the density enough so that we can actually see the effect. If the effect is so subtle I can't see it, I might accidentally not give you points for that. And you can choose whatever filter you want. If you want to choose a cooling filter, do it. If you want to choose violet, do that too. That's fine. Whatever filter you want is totally fine. Okay, now you're going to save it. Of course, you're always going to back up your native file format, which is your .psd file. By going to File, Save As, but you're going to be turning in a JPEG. So call this week 2 underscore assessment underscore your name. So the order of your layers is very important, Michael. Watch what happens if we were to put the black and white layer above the photo filter layer. Obviously, now our photo looks completely different. If you were to turn in this JPEG, I wouldn't be able to tell that you had colorized the headscarf or added the photo filter, right? So it's really important that your layers are in the correct order. So next we're gonna save the JPEG. So I'm gonna go to File. I mean, it depends. So if you I would have to visualize it. Obviously, some effects are different than others, but I think that if you were to have an exposure adjustment layer, let's just see what it looks like. So I'll just increase the exposure on this for some reason. Doesn't look good. And maybe a little gamma. Okay, so that's my exposure, and then saturation. Let's do, we'll just increase the saturation a whole lot. So this is what it looks like that way. Let's see if the hue saturation changes, if the exposure is on top. Oops. So it changes the effect a little bit. Is it as much an argument in PS as audio? I don't know anything about the audio world, so I don't know how comparable Photoshop is to whatever audio software you're using. So now we're going to save the JPEG. So I'm going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I think Photoshop is more about the end product. So as long as you're working non-destructively, I mean, it's about the result. So you want to make sure that you have all of your layers and you merge layers and you don't delete layers or anything like that. And that's just so that you can work non-destructively and efficiently. But the final end result is what people are looking at. So how you get there doesn't really matter. Okay, so now I'm going to say JPEG high and then hit save. And that JPEG is what you're going to be turning in. Any questions? So if you're finishing up your notes on this section, if I were you, I would write down what I have in my layer panel, or I would take a screenshot of my screen by hitting either Shift Command 3 or Shift Command 4 on your computer, so that you have all of these layers so that you know exactly what layers you're using and what the final appearance is going to be, right? So you want your first layer to be black and white, your second layer to be color fill, your third layer to be gradient, and your fourth layer to be photo filter. Any questions at all about this last call for your assessment? Okay, so since we have a little bit more time, what we can do is go back to the assignment. And we can do the dog picture and the cat picture. And I would say the cat picture is the hardest, but because Tabreen wanted to, oh, so Tabreen just asked me, do you supposed to merge your layers after every assignment? No, 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 never, 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 ever, 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 never, ever merge your layers. Never. Don't do it. Why? Because then, let's say 2 weeks from now, your client or your employer comes back to you and says, you know what, I don't like how the headscarf is purple. Can you change it so that it's green? Well, if you have all your layers, watch how easy it is to change it to green. Done. But if you've merged all your layers and deleted them, then you have to start your whole project all over again. And you know, the time that we spent to select the headscarf and do everything, it's just very inefficient. That's called destructive editing. You never want to destroy your layers. So now I'm going to go and open up the cat picture, because I think it was Sabrine who had a question about flopping a part of the picture. And we want to do that for the cat eye. So step one, we're going to adjust the exposure on this to brighten it up, and we're going to adjust the color to get rid of the excess red that shows up when we brighten it up. So I'm going to click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And then we're going to click on exposure. And we're going to increase the exposure just a little bit. And now we're going to get rid of the excess red by going to color balance. And we're going to go to the shadows and get rid of the excess red. Up there. Make a new layer. And I'm going to get rid of some of the creases by using clone stamp. So get my clone stamp out. Hold down the Alt or Option key, click. Alt or Option key, click. We'll see how much we can get rid of with our spot healing tool.
Couldn't you have did that with the whole blemishing thing on the lady?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've just done this a million times, and I found that the clone stamp tool just ends up being faster than the spot healing tool, but you're definitely welcome to use the spot healing tool for that as well.
Because I'm still having a little trouble with the clone thing. So.
Okay, yeah, and I'm happy to help you after class with the clone stamp tool too if you're having trouble with it.
Okay.
So you'll go around and you'll get rid of all of these little creases like so. And just do a little at a time. Okay. And so unlike I'm doing here, where I'm just kind of doing this really fast, you guys have more time. So you will get to spend time making those adjustments nice and perfect. Okay, let's see before, after. So next, what we want to do is get rid of or put back in the cat's eye. And so we're going to use clone stamp to make a copy of the cat's eye, and then we're going to flip it using transform. So I'm going to make a new layer, Shift Command N to make a new layer. And then I'm going to go to the clone stamp tool. I'm going to make my cursor a little bit bigger than the cat eye. I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option button with one finger, and then with another finger, I'm going to click on my trackpad once and let go. And then I'm going to let go of my Alt or Option button. Now I'm going to bring my cursor over to the other side of the cat's face. And then I'm going to click once with my trackpad and then let go. So now what I need to do, the cat's eye is facing the wrong direction. So I need to flip the cat's eye. And I do that by going up to Edit, Transform, Flip, Horizontal. Edit, Transform, Flip, Horizontal. Ta-da! Now the problem though here is the cat looks cross-eyed. So I'm gonna make a new layer. And I'm gonna use my brush tool with a little black color and a very, very small brush. And I'm going to paint and make the cat's eye bigger. And now the cat does not look cross-eyed any longer. Okay, so the next picture is these guys. And I would say this one is the easier of the animal pictures. And the first step is we have to get rid of the excess magenta. So we do that with the color balance, just like we did for the yellow guy. We're going to go down to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. We're going to click on color balance. We're going to drag our slider a little bit away from magenta and into green to get rid of the excess magenta. Now I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to click on the spot healing tool. I'm going to Command +sign to zoom in. And I'm going to scrub over each of these little dots. Right? Go around the whole picture and use spot healing to get rid of the little dots. Right? And so that'll take you some time. And a good idea is to, for the ones on the face, make your brush real small and work from the outside in and just work really delicately and go over. And if it starts to look smudgy, erase it and do it again. Okay, now to fill in this white spot, we're going to use the clone stamp tool. So I'll make a new layer. And what we're going to do is we have to be creative. So we have to steal parts of the picture and then fill that in. So I'm going to use my clone stamp tool to steal first a little tree from over here. So I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option button and click and paint it in. Alt or Option, click, paint it in. Alt or Option, click, paint it in. I'll steal a little bit of fence from over here. Alt or Option, click, paint, paint, paint. Little fence from over here again. Oh, I don't got a little tree in there. I don't know. Well, I'll leave it there for now. And now I think I'll get rid of that. I'll fix this. No tree. Now I gotta fill in some leaves back there. So I'm gonna steal from some leaves from over here. So I'll go to Alt Option click. Alt Option click. Go. Go back. Cool. And there you go. So that is the final product with that picture. So Tabreen, you said you were having trouble with the clone stamp. Do you need some help with that?
Yeah, I can use little.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. I'd love to help you with what you're having trouble with.
Okay, wait. How do I go to it?
So you should just be able to hit the share screen button in the center of your screen.
Share screen. Did I do it?
And then after you hit share screen, it gives you the option to click desktop. So you want to click on desktop next. Good, perfect. And then open up whatever project it is you wanted to use the clone stamp tool on.
I was just saying because, okay, this is what I turned in, but this one, but where'd it go? But I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that totally works. Oh, the hair though. Ooh, you know, I would just recommend deleting what you did on the hair, but everything else is good. Because you also distorted her shoulder, and that looks really bad. And just the hair itself just looks really bad. So I would say,
I was going for this grungy look.
yeah, no, it just looks bad. It looks like it wasn't done right. So I would say just erase the hair that you did, and erase the liquify layer, and then you'll get 100% on it.
Okay, so
Resubmit it.
So like, what do you mean, like the where I distorted? What did I do?
That's the liquify tool, and just delete the layer where you have the liquify tool on it.
Where is that at? That's the white, right? No, that's the
no,
hair.
the hair. Yeah, I want you to delete the hair,
okay.
and then resubmit it so that you can get 100%.
Okay, all right, I can do that. But no, like, you know, the part where you were talking about, oh, it was a picture. No, it was a picture that I was doing for my mom, her baby picture, and I was wondering if I could fit, if I can, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that looks great. Yeah, you could definitely. The thing is, her arm is at a different angle on the other side, so I don't think you can steal her arm from the other side of the picture and put it there. But what you could do is find a stock image of a teddy bear or something and put a teddy bear there to hide the fact that she's missing her arm.
Okay. So there's no way that I can like clone it and like do it like how you did the trees?
Well, you can try, but it's a completely different angle. Like that elbow is more going back, and her elbow on the other side is more going to the side. So even if you were to flip it, it would look like her arm is broken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's a really great picture to like practice restoring. And, you know, you could also just try cropping it to get rid of that arm. So like it's cropped in closer.
I just on the other one that I had saved, I fixed the blotches. I did the all around there. So
oh, cool.
I don't know how to make this pinker and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, you can definitely make it pinker using the color blending mode.
Oh, color blending mode?
Yep. So remember, just like we did for the headscarf, you just make a selection of her dress, and then you put a color over it, and then put it on the color blending mode.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You'll have fun doing that.
Yep. I just thought I'd practice on this.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else I can help you with?
No, I'm good right now. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. I know you'll do great. Okay, and anyone else have any final questions?
How do I, oh, like that.
Okay, I thought I'd share with you, because this is so important, this photo retouching to graphic design and the industry that you're going into, I thought I'd share with you guys some professional graphic design work so that you can kind of see what it's like to work in the industry and, hear a little bit from industry professionals. So I have this short little video I want to share with you guys. And then I'll leave the class open to any questions if you guys have any questions afterwards. But I hope you guys enjoy this because you'll see some really spectacular professional work.
The word Photoshop is often used like, oh, you can just Photoshop that with the click of a button. And it's not true. It's really not true.
Photoshop is such an amazing tool. It changed the whole photography world.
Online culture would be a lot more boring if there weren't editing tools like Photoshop.
A lot of people feel that because you pass some work through Photoshop or digital, the process is not as valid that it's going to be with a click of a button, which is a big misconception. I feel like I do draw traditionally, but I just do it on the computer. Photoshop, there's nothing you can't create with it, especially nowadays. It's just like learning any program. I feel it's definitely important to experiment for yourself. Just go crazy with it. I think a lot of my work is fantasy, but photorealistic. It's that floating world image, and people seem to be drawn to that. Usually a production company or advertising company would approach me and they would give me 1 or 2 images to work with as a start. With the Paul McCartney one, it was just him on stage in a black background. So I would have to take him and make an interesting illustration with it. I'd say typically 50 layers is normal, if not more. I'd say that would be the base. It's not just layers of random elements. You gotta have color balancing, and then you have to adjust levels. Just everything and anything could be a layer. 10, 15 years ago, I definitely wouldn't be able to create images like what I do today. I've talked to traditional artists before, and a lot of them are just kind of stubborn in trying it, or they feel like there'll be a cop-out if they do, and I don't agree with that. It's really no different than a regular traditional brush. It's just how you want to use it.
Before the digital age, we used to retouch prints, nags, hectachrons. Everything was made with hands. Now everything can be Photoshopped, so editors, they put a lot of work on the post-production. The first thing is I start with a basic shaping. Make sure the body, face, the hair, the finger, the hands, the feet looks pretty good to the eye. Then I work my way in to do some details in the skin, blotches, zits, bags and wrinkles, red eyes, crossing flying hairs. I mean, I can go on and on. A good retouching job, obviously, is when you don't see it's retouched. There's still some quality into it, some luminosity, some shadow, it's still alive. But this is a site called Photoshop Disaster. People are just retouching without the eye of the retoucher or the eye of the photographer. There's poor quality. You don't have any structure left. We're really bombarded with pictures of glamour and perfectness. It seems like perfection has to be the norm, and it's pretty sad. I do believe those images impact our definition of beauty, but the trend changes and the beauty keeps changing over time. There's a saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which I believe is true. I think we can separate between like the commercial beauty and the artistic beauty.
Photoshop has evolved along with remix culture in a very interesting way. It's become a dominant way to be able to illustrate their sense of humor or what they find is funny, what their ethics are. And images are much easier to spread than a blog post. Sometimes Photoshop memes can be a very simple way of communicating, but other times I think they can be quite deep and complicated. Casually Pepper Spray Cop, for example, was a meme that originated from this photograph of a police officer who was pepper spraying some Occupy protesters on campus. And a lot of people use this meme to make a statement about police brutality or to publicly humiliate Lieutenant John Pike. There's a really recent Photoshop meme called Thumbs and Ammo, in which movie stills having an actor holding a gun has the gun replaced with a thumbs up hand signal. And this one actually requires some very significant Photoshop abilities. And some people have said that it's an interesting way to make a statement about gun control or have an anti-gun sentiment. I'd say Photoshop has been empowering for people. It gives them the ability to humble celebrities like Beyonce's unflattering photos or politicians. And previously, people didn't really have such a way to get their voice heard in these regards. So these tools have really helped users to be able to interact with media and change it into whatever way they want.
The benefit is obviously the practicalness. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's better and better all the time.
Photoshop has become very important in terms of our visual culture, and meme culture is becoming increasingly important in online discourse.
10, 15 years ago, I definitely wouldn't be able to create images like what I do today. It's not possible.
Alrighty, so the discussion post for this week, you wanted a quick review on that. It's super easy and straightforward. It's just a little discussion of you find a piece of Photoshop work that you like, and you discuss, you don't have to be right, but you discuss how you think that image was created. You have to embed an image first. So you could say something like, I found this really cool image. And let me see, I will go and I'll find Hermes advertisements tend to be pretty good, or May advertisements. I'm so low class, I call it Hermes. So we'll go to image, and we'll find something like...
We can't see what you're doing.
Oh, you can? Okay, oh, let me share my screen. Thank you. I thought I had shared it. There we go. Okay, so I am looking for a good advertisement. Here we go. Okay, so let's say I want to use this photo for my discussion. I'm going to hold down the control button and click, and then hit copy image address. And then I'm going to go to my discussion, and I'm going to click embed image. Click on the URL and hit Command V to paste. Okay, and that puts my picture in the discussion. And now you're going to discuss how you think that image was created. So I would say in this advertisement, I see at least 5 separate elements. I see the photo of the model, the horse, the structure, the city beyond, and the snow. And then you can go on describing how you think this image was created. So you can say photo compositing was used to bring these elements together. The snow was likely painted with the brush, and color correction was probably done with color balance. Yada, yada. And then you want to find some quotes, maybe about those tools, maybe about Photoshop in general. Find a way to add them in there. Be sure to cite your sources. Be sure that your initial discussion post is 150 words or more, include an APA citation, include 2 follow-up posts, 50 words or more. Make sure your initial post is by Wednesday night. But it's pretty easy and straightforward. And the thing is, like, you don't have to be right in guessing like what tools were used to create the image. Like, you can give it your best guess, and it doesn't have to, I'm not gonna knock you up points off if you guessed incorrectly. We're just like speculating here. Does that answer your question? Okay, any other questions? If not, you guys are free to go.
When does the live session recording get posted?
It always gets posted in the live session button. So let me share my screen again. And if you go to home in the classroom, so here's our classroom. If you click on home and then you go to the first page, see the button that says live session?
Yes.
Click on that and then scroll down and see our week 1 video is right there. And then our week 2 video is going to be right here once it gets uploaded to YouTube.
Okay.
Any other questions from anyone? Perfect. Well, have a great night.